Hey everybody, Regina Andler here, and it is time for Coffee with Regina. And today I have my good friend Terry Wildemann. Is it Wildemann or Wildemann?
Wildemann.
Wildemann. Hey, I pronounced it right the first
Did.
time. Awesome. Woohoo. Doesn't always happen that way. And Terry has some really, really super cool stuff. So Terry is the founder of Intuitive Leadership. See if I can speak this morning, and SHIFTology and the Smile Initiative events. And each one of her brands contributes towards harmonizing the spiritual, personal, and practical aspects of business to cultivate leadership, wealth, and health. How cool is that? And she's known as the intuitive truth detective. We need to know more about that. And her real main goal is she helps high achieving purpose-driven entrepreneurs who are at risk of burnout. And she has this gift of being able to pinpoint and clear deeply rooted unseen issues that you have that might be holding you back. So welcome, Terry, to Coffee with Regina.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you.
And there's so much that you do, and I know you and I have met in person as well at a mastermind, and there's just so much cool stuff that a half an hour is not going to be enough. So we will have to have you back again.
Okay. We love that.
First off, we're going to have you back again. Today, though, I really want to know more. What is the Smile Initiative? Because, it just sounds so happy. And at this time of year, we really need happy.
I am so thrilled that you asked that question. And the reason why is that is a relatively new brand, but it's not. I was sitting in the couch during the summer, and I've had intuitive leadership for a very long time. That is trademarked. SHIFTology Live, and the SHIFTology Accountability Matrix just got registered. So I knew I needed a way to be able to put everything under an umbrella that would bring it all together powerfully. And I was sitting on the couch, and one of the things that I am is a medium. As you know, I get downloads all the time, and I teach the high achievers how to tap into their inner guidance system and work with their with what I call their enchanted boardroom. And I'm sitting on the couch, and I hear this: you already know the name, and you already know the umbrella name of your brand that will house everything. And I remember sitting there going, "You've got to be kidding me." So I go over to my GoDaddy account. I have a bazillion domains, and I'm going through the domains, and I'm muscle testing them. And I'm muscle testing. I'm like, okay, nothing's coming up. And all of a sudden I saw Smile Initiative. I have owned Smile Initiative since 2006. And I own smileinitiative.com and smileinitiative.org. And the purpose was to use it for a social enterprise where I could give back. Well, that had not culminated yet. Up until now, and we know that phrase powerfully, that had not culminated. And I realized that was the umbrella that I was supposed to be using for my brands. And it used to stand for strategies for management, intuitive leadership, and education. Today, it stands for spirit, mindset, intuition, leadership, and empowerment, which is everything that I work with when interacting and coaching and sharing with entrepreneurial leaders. So that's what the Smile Initiative is all about. I bring everything I do together.
I love that. That is so cool. And sorry, my cat just jumped on my lap because that's what she does, like the 2-year-old when you get on the phone. So now I have a cat decoration. And when it comes to, the Smile Initiative, like you said you had all these domains in there, and you said something that I don't know that everybody here knows about. And you said you muscle tested.
Yes.
So that you could figure out which one was, the one that really worked. So tell us a little bit about muscle testing.
Okay. I teach people one of the areas of expertise that I have is decision making, teaching people how to make decisions. And I have various tools to be able to do that. And one of them is muscle testing. I use it also, muscle testing, to help improve health and wealth and all kinds of different things. And you automatically know, your body knows what works and what doesn't. And the best way to describe this is with this phrase: what sunk the Titanic is what was unseen. The top of the iceberg is from here up. The bottom of the iceberg is from here down. Look at all that real estate that we have. And we don't use it. So muscle testing taps into our body. It taps into our energy field. It helps us see what works and what doesn't work. And you see me using my fingers. You see me do that. But there's also a technique called the sway test. And I don't have time to teach it now. It's very simple. You can go on YouTube and look up sway test. But your body, when it's a yes, will automatically go forward. When it's a no, it will automatically go backwards. And so in going through the finger testing that I was doing, I'm licensed with in emotion code and body code with Dr. Bradley. What he does is he uses 2 rings for muscle testing, and like this. And this is no, and this is yes. You can't move forward. I use my ring finger and my thumb, and there's other techniques you can use. There's a bazillion techniques, and they are equal to the sway test. They're all just different versions of muscle testing. And you'll often see some people doing the arm thing, going up and down. I'm sorry, I'm an idiot when it comes to the arm thing. I don't like it. It doesn't work for me. It's like, oh my God. I'm much more in control. I feel much more in control when I'm using my fingers, when I'm using the sway test. And to give you an idea of how it works, I go shopping. I want a specific blouse. I go ahead and I pull up the blouse. And I'll muscle test doing the sway test. Yes or no, forward or backwards. I'm sure the people on the security camera are wondering, what is this wacky woman doing, going back and forth? And if it's a yes, I'll go and I'll try it on. If it's a no, no matter how much I love it, I have learned over the years, if it's a no and I still take it because I like it so much and I try it on, either the fit is wrong, it never, ever, ever works. Never have I been able to find, and I don't like to use the word never, but up until now, I have yet to try something on where I got a complete no and I did it anyway and have it work. So anyway, going forward and backwards shopping, it's pretty funny. And I keep thinking, somebody's going to think I'm absolutely crazy. I don't care. That's their issue, not mine. And so I do sway test all the time, or I muscle test with my fingers all the time. So with going through my domains, I read out loud every domain name and I muscle tested it with my fingers. And at first they all came up no. And then I'm like, okay, guys, my enchanted boardroom, what are you doing here? And all of a sudden, Smile Initiative just bounced in my mind's eye, and there it was. There it is. So that's how I decided on Smile Initiative.
I love that. And that is such a good tool for all of us to use. The sway test, I've used that one in the past too. And the sway test is really super easy because like you said, it's forward is yes, back is no. And you can do that anywhere, buying a blouse, thinking about, what you're doing with your business, take on whether you want to take on this client or not take on this client. And,
Yes.
yeah, you can use that for
And
everything.
that is a huge one because oftentimes we take on clients for the money and they're a pain in the tail to begin with. And a few weeks down the line, we're like, why did we take that person on? No. So yeah, muscle testing always works in that situation.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Now, there's just so many places I can go right now. That's why you're definitely going to have to be on again because my brain is like, whew. I want to know about the Enchanted Boardroom. I really do.
Okay. Well, that came up. I was having some energy work done. I was on the table and I was coming out of, a deep meditation. I was coming out of it. I heard the Enchanted Boardroom. And this was about 15 years ago. And I got in the car and I'm like, what are you telling me? And I realized that it was about a book. So in 2015, I wrote the book, The Enchanted Boardroom, How to Evolve into an Unstoppable Intuitive Leader. And it was a very intense book for me. It was my second solo book. I'm a 2-time solo author, and I'm in 7 co-authored books. writing that book, the first part, the practical part, was very easy for me because I've been in business since I was 18. And then the personal stuff, we got into DISC and teaching the behavior styles and all that other good stuff. The last part was the spirituality part, and do angels belong in business and that kind of thing. And that last part of that book, those last few chapters, brought me to my knees. I was petrified to bring that part of myself out. And so it was the third part. So I was focusing on the practical, the personal, and the spiritual. And I always said that everything I do is about bringing together the practical, tactical, and logical with the emotional, the energetic, the spiritual, and the intuitive. And I bring it all together so that entrepreneurial leaders can work with all of their skill sets. Well, a couple of years ago, again, I'm sitting on the proverbial couch and I'm looking at my book, and all of a sudden it dawned on me, I wrote it backwards. I wrote it backwards. Spirituality must come first, then the personal, then the practical. Because when you are tuned in, tapped in, turned on, as our friend Abraham Hicks says, tuned in, tapped in, turned on, and then you are in the spiritual state or this meditative state where you can bring in information from your inner guidance system. Your personal life begins to change. Your health begins to change. Your wealth begins to change. And all of that shifts the practical side of your business. And so the Enchanted Boardroom is now in rewrite. It's a different title, different cover. And my Enchanted Boardroom is, I have literally a boardroom of spiritual and ascended masters. Just like we have a physical boardroom of people who guide you, I have lots of physical people on my boardroom, my physical boardroom, but this is my spiritual boardroom who I tune into morning, noon, and night. And it has changed my life when I finally realized that I had it backwards. So always tune into the spiritual first.
It's funny because for a lot of people, and myself was included in this, the spiritual side is a little bit hard to tap into sometimes because
It is.
we're brought up with these beliefs and this stuff of what we're supposed to believe in, and anything outside of that is not right. And yet there's, well, I'll just a whole universe full of other stuff that's out there.
That's
And
right.
it was actually funny. So Terry, this is a story I don't think I've ever told. I go to this place, it's called Kripalu. It's a yoga retreat center out in Western Massachusetts.
I
And
know it well.
oh, awesome. We'll
I
have to
live
go
in Rhode Island. I got it.
we'll have to go sometime. And out there, it's not just yoga stuff. It's all kinds of different
All
things.
kinds of
And
things.
I went out there one time for an R&R retreat. And while I was there, there happened to be somebody who was doing readings. And they were doing it with aura and everything else. And so it was like a combined, and it had the aura and everything. And so I was like, you know what? That's one of those things where it's like, I believe in my angels, I believe in my guides, I believe in stuff. And at the same time, I didn't realize that there was still something there that was like, yeah, but I don't want to actually really know that they're there. And there was like something holding me back. And so this was prior to me actually doing the business that I'm in now. So I've had multiple businesses over the years. They've been tech businesses. And I hadn't done the coaching side of things and teaching and that kind of thing. And so it was so funny because they did my reading and they got done. And the girl, there was the two women there. There was one who was actually kind of training to use the aura reader and all this kind of stuff because they had this device thing and a medium. And so she's looking at stuff and she looks at my aura and she goes, huh. And I was like, is that a good huh or a bad huh? It's like, what kind of huh is that? And she goes, are you a coach? And I said, no, because at the time I wasn't. She's like, huh. She's like, you have like this whole, and she showed me the picture and I had like this whole, all these entities. And she's like, yeah, no, you're a coach. And she goes, and every single one of them is like screaming at you to go get this and to go start this. And I was like, really? This was like 3 years before I actually started my business, this business. And so at first I was like, huh, really? And at the same time, when I say that spiritual stuff for some people is kind of like, we'll just call it maybe a touchy point. At the
Yes.
same time, I was like, all right, well, yeah, I'm not sure. Is this like, should I really? It was like, I believe that it's there. At the same time, I'm like, should I actually listen? It's, and all of a sudden, it just became real. And at some point, a switch flipped. And all of a sudden, it was like, duh, yes, you know that they're there. And you've been told by somebody else that they're actually telling you to go do this, even though you've been feeling like you should and you've been holding back for some reason. All of a sudden, something switched, and I was able to step into what I was supposed to be doing. It took me a bit to get there, though.
Well, you stop shitting on yourself. You know, that's a word that drives me bananas, quite frankly. I should do this. I should do that. Oh, stop. First of all, I love it when people point at you and said, you should be doing this. No, don't should me. If it's something I'm meant to do, I will know it. I'm listening to your words, but don't should me. You know, that's one of those phrases. I have an e-guide that I work with that I wrote called Positive Words and Phrases. And one of them is to eliminate don't, not, know, shoulda, woulda, coulda from your language. Because when you learn how to get rid of those words, you step into a very positive state that shifts the energy and brings in what you actually want. And should is about fear. You know where I'm going with that. Should is all about fear. Oh, I should be doing this. Well, what's holding you back? What is blocking you from stepping into that place that feels better to you, but you're too scared to go there? So, in identifying what those blocks are and dissolving the emotional baggage that is holding you back and keeping you in that should state, you get into the I am state. I am this. I am that. I am. And when we're in the I am, you go into the present moment. When you live in the past, you're living a life of regret. When you're living in the future, you're living a life of worry. When you're living in the present, you see things clearly and allow your inner guidance system to come to you and work with you and interact with you and guide you on that yellow brick road to your Emerald City, whatever that looks like for you. And it's so important to realize that our words create our reality. You know that. We've talked about this.
Yes, we've talked about that quite a bit. So yeah, words create your reality. Words, words matter. And that is exactly when you said, you need to stop shoulding, woulda, shoulda, woulda, coulda on yourself. And that's actually the shift. So when you said that, it actually like told me, because it reminded me. Remember, I said something flipped. That was actually the flip. The flip was, this is my choice, not their choice. And what I mean their choice is I had all these limiting beliefs of, yeah, well, I was brought up, you don't do it this way. This is the way it does. And maybe you shouldn't do this. Maybe you're supposed to work hard, grow up, work hard. My dad always told me, and we actually just had this conversation, you and I, with our other mentor. My dad told me growing up, it's you put your nose down, you go to school, you get a degree, you go work in corporate world, you work for 40 years, you retire with a pension, and that's the way it works. Yeah. And that was the belief that I had, even though, the whole pension thing, work 40 years in corporate kind of went away. It was like, yeah, but you still need to work in corporate. You still need to do this. And it wasn't until I was able to turn that off and go, I actually have a choice.
Yes.
I don't have to do it that way. And all these things that are going, you're not on the right path. You're not on the right. I had things that I had the feeling, which, is my board, right? It's that was my enchanted boardroom that was sitting there telling me that, screaming at me like the medium and the aura read was they were screaming at me saying, you're on the wrong path. We know what you're supposed to be doing and you're not doing it. What is holding you back? And it was that thought that it doesn't work this way. It's supposed to be like this. And then all of a sudden it was like, you actually have a choice. You
You
can
do.
stay on that path, or you can go on this path, which is where you want to be.
You know, it's interesting what you're talking about, especially with your dad. My mom was a devout Catholic, and when I started, um, when when was it? 1994, 93, 94. Um, we're a U.S. Navy family, and my husband, his ship was in Valparaiso, Chile, and I met the ship there. We were walking through the streets, and I knew that I had been there before. I never even heard of the city of Valparaiso. And I went back to Miami where my parents were taking care of my then 2-year-old. And I mentioned it to a neighbor, and he brought back the book, Many Lives, Many Masters. And I read that book, and I could not put it down. My mother read the book and was horrified. Shortly after that, we moved up here to Newport, Rhode Island. And I ended up meeting someone who was teaching Many Lives, Many Masters 2 weeks after we moved here. So I started learning with her, teaching with her, learning with her, studying with her. 2 years we studied past life regression, and then I also became a Reiki master with her in 1998. When I became a Reiki master, my mother honestly thought I was a witch. Well, I had gone off the deep end. She was so petrified of what it is that I was doing and what I was learning. And as I told her, I said, this is pure healing energy. It is lovely, and that should place, and this is why I'm sharing this story. It's like, oh my God, I'm supposed to be a good Cuban daughter. I'm supposed to do what my mother and my father tell me to do, which I never did, and I was always bucking them. But then I'm going into the spiritual place, and what do we want? We want approval from our parents. We want approval from our mom. We want approval from my dad. Now, my mom died at the age of 98, 2 years ago. And just before she died, she's asking me to put my hands on her to help her with her pain. So that for me was the most amazing gift I could possibly get, because it was like my mom finally approved. My dad, engineer, he didn't believe in any of this stuff ever. A trip ago, I'm sitting at the table and I said to Dad, he's 98 now. So this was just this past summer. And I said, Dad, everything's going to be okay. The angels are all around us. And he sat there and looked at me. He said, I know they are. I almost fell off my chair. I know they are. I go, what do you mean, Dad? He said, I see them all around you. So again, it was a validation for me of I followed what I knew I was meant to follow in my heart, no matter how much it hurt that my mom and dad didn't believe in me in those skill sets. Who is this daughter who says she's a medium? Who is this whack job? Okay, who says she's doing this stuff? Owning all of those gifts was really hard when the two people you love the most weren't believing in you.
Mm.
And it was like I was always trying to prove to them, and hey, that's done with now. That's done with. No matter how much I healed and cleared off layer after layer after layer, there was always that edge.
Yeah, and it's funny because that's you mentioned that in there too. It's like you felt like it's like, am I being a bad daughter or something if I'm not doing what they say, what they taught me, if I'm not following what they prescribed,
Yeah,
am I being a bad daughter? And that was exactly the way I felt too. And then it was
yeah,
like everything inside of me just kept screaming, you're on the wrong path, you're on the wrong path, because I was convinced, okay, if I'm not going to stay in this corporate job, I'm going to go find another corporate job and I'm going to go do it. And this is what I'm going to do because this is what I've been told I'm supposed to be doing. And this is the way my dad did it. And, my dad was career General Electric. And so, from the time he was, a late teenager, when he graduated high school until he retired, he was career GE, and he was also an engineer. So see that we definitely have that connection. it was kind of the same thing.
and my father-in-law worked for GE, so yeah.
So yeah, and so it was interesting that you don't realize that there's this stuff that can be holding you back, that
Yeah.
all you need to do is stop and recognize it for what it is. So if
Yeah.
you were going to maybe give some tips or tricks on, where do you start if you're sitting there going, well, I'm just not sure.
Right.
And where do you go? How do you start releasing some of the stuff?
Well, the first thing that I love to share with people is to do a clarity worksheet. And the clarity worksheet is just taking a piece of paper, folding it in half, and on the left side, writing down everything you don't want or you don't like. And you can focus, you can have like 15 sheets. One can focus on your business, one can focus on your career, one can focus on your kitchen. Okay, one can focus on a mate, one can focus on a car. You know, on the left side, always write what you don't want or what you don't like. And then on the right side, write the polar opposite. For example, I'm going to use the car, all right, as an example. I don't want a brand new car. On the right side, I want a car that's 1 or 2 years old. On the left side, I don't want a blue car. I want a red car on the right side. I don't want a minivan on the right side. I want a sedan. On the left side, I don't want this. I want this. But it's the polar opposite. That's key. It has to be the polar opposite of what you write on the left side. And pretty soon, you become very clear on what it is you want in all these different categories in your life. And that right side of the paper, then you can transfer, you can use it as it is. I invite people to fold them up, okay, and either put them on a wall in your office where you read them every single day, or you turn it into a vision board. All those things that you want to attract to yourself. And I teach this stuff in my Vision and Vibe workshop. Create a vision board in Canva, and we bring it all together with. But first, it's about identifying what you don't want. It is so much easier to go to the space of what you don't want versus what you do want because we're very clear on what we don't want. It's harder to go to that space of what we do want. And it takes practice to automatically go, I want this, I want this, I want this. I don't want this. So this is something that I have found. It's something I learned again from Abraham Hicks. Okay. And this was years ago. They called it in the early days, was it 25 years ago? The placemat exercise is what they called it. I just call it now my clarity worksheet. And then from there, we go into clearing out all of the emotional baggage that stops you from attracting those very things that you want. So energetically, we're saying what we want. Then it's about clearing out all of the baggage of anger, sadness, lack of self-worth, not being good enough, fear, lack of being visible. All those things we start to work on clearing out.
I love that. And that's a great exercise to do. And at first, when you said start with everything you don't want, I was like, well, shouldn't you start with what you do want? And you're absolutely right, though, because the brain automatically goes, it's so easy to come up with the bad stuff, the stuff that you don't want, the drama. It's so easy to step into that.
Yeah.
So if you get that out first,
Mm-hmm.
now you've opened yourself up. So it's like, okay, well, if that's what I don't want, well, what do I do want?
And when you read that and you write the exact opposite, oh, okay, I can do that.
Yeah, it kind of excuse me, taps into your subconscious because now your subconscious that may have been focused so much on what you don't want,
Yeah.
because we tend to focus on what we don't want because it's right in front of us half the time. And it's like, but I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want that. Well, it's like, as long as you keep thinking or focusing on what you don't want, you're going to get more of what you don't want.
Exactly. And one of the most popular ones that I find is, especially with business entrepreneurs, is entrepreneurial leaders, is I don't want to be invisible. What is the exact opposite? I want to be visible. And all of a sudden you write that and you go, oh, I want to be visible. And all the fears come up around being visible. So that and we clear that out because that is a very, very common one in entrepreneurship.
Yeah, and it's funny, it's like because I hear that all the time too. It's like, but I don't want to be in front of people. It's like, well, I work predominantly with coaches and consultants. It's like, well, you're a coach, you're a consultant. It's like that's what you do. You work with people, so. And I found that a lot of times it's a limiting belief that's holding them back from wanting to be visible. They feel they need to be in the background when really they need to be front and center.
Absolutely.
And we could probably talk about that for a long, long time. However, we are actually at the 30-minute mark, believe it or not, because there is so much that we could talk about. And I want to make sure people know how to find you. And one of the places that you gave me for folks to find you is your Smile Initiative Hub out on Facebook.
That's right.
So tell us what they'll find out there.
It's the Smile Initiative Success Hub, and right now we are. I'm giving away a lot of free stuff. I'm giving away I'm every day this week is a different lesson. The program's called Merry Business Ho Ho Ho. 5 lessons to help keep yourself together during the holidays, and it has to do with business. And the bonus over the weekend is all about personal stress management. The first 5 are more about business. The bonus is all about personal. So that's free in the Smile Initiative Success Hub. So come join us there. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, I love that. And I know you've got a ton of other stuff out there too. So for everybody who's watching this live and on the replay, bounce over to the Smile Initiative Hub and find all of this really cool stuff, because Terry is one of the coolest people that I know with all the stuff that she does. And she's not kidding. Her angels, you could see them all around her. I mean, it's like it's her energy just radiates. I love having conversations with you.
Yeah, and likewise, because when we were together Terry Levine is our mutual mentor, and right now, and we were at her mastermind. It was a riot sitting next to each other.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So thank you so much, Terry, for joining us today. Yeah. And for all the folks watching, make sure you go check out her page there. And we will see you next time on Coffee with Regina. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye, everybody.